roll with it. Okay, let me,
Yeah.
I can move this over here. Okay, let me click play and let me know if we're good to go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening. We're excited to see that you're interested not only in the congressionally directed medical research programs, but in the peer-reviewed medical research program. In this presentation, I'm going to first give a brief overview of the CDMRP. Then, I'll talk about the CDMRP program cycle and review process, including some specifics about the peer-reviewed medical research program. I'll also talk about current funding opportunities and where to apply, and the presentation will end with resources and strategies for success. The CDMRP's vision is to transform healthcare through innovative and impactful research. I encourage you to really let these words sink in: innovative and impactful. We aim to fund research that other funding organizations don't, and we do this by responsibly managing collaborative research that discovers, develops, and delivers healthcare solutions for service members and their families, veterans, and the American public. To the right, you can see our star graphic. Each point on the star explains the who, what, where, why, and how of the CDMRP. Congress established the congressionally directed medical research programs in response to a grassroots effort in 1992 led by the breast cancer advocacy community. The breast cancer community specifically requested that patient advocates have a voice in determining what research received funding. That effort resulted in a congressional appropriation of funds for breast cancer research and initiated a unique partnership among the public, Congress, and the military. The CDMRP aims to fund innovative and impactful biomedical research everywhere, including with industry partners and academic researchers not only across the United States, but internationally as well. The CDMRP funding opportunities are publicly announced, and investigators and their organizations who meet the eligibility criteria specified in the funding opportunity may apply. To avoid funding duplication with other funding organizations, the CDMRP collaborates with the NIH and the VA to target unfunded and unmet research gaps and works diligently to catch any overlap. Projects are not allowed to receive funding from more than one federal source at a time. After its initial appropriation for breast cancer research in 1992, Congress appropriated additional funding for other targeted research programs. This slide shows a list of the congressionally identified research programs for fiscal year 2025. This year, the peer-reviewed medical research program received $150 million in appropriations for 56 topic areas. For the PRMRP, the list of topic areas serves as the starting point to design the strategy for each year's program cycle. We'll talk more about the fiscal year 2025 topic areas shortly. Now, let's talk about the CDMRP program cycle and review process. Here we show how the program cycle starts at the vision setting meeting and then moves through the release of funding opportunities, the application process, award negotiation and management, and ends with the award closeout. All CDMRP programs follow the same process.
Recording in progress.
Programs hold annual vision setting meetings to define strategies and funding opportunities to execute the appropriation. We annually adapt the program's vision and investment strategy to allow for rapid response based on congressional language and changing needs as described by the community. The CDMRP is only allowed to release funding opportunities after we receive our appropriations. Applicants then submit a pre-application, which is either a letter of intent or a pre-proposal, depending on the specific award mechanism. Pre-applications are the first step to applying for funding from the CDMRP. The CDMRP uses letters of intent for planning purposes only. There is no review process for these letters. Pre-proposals, however, undergo a review and selection process. Applicants will receive an invite or not invite decision. The CDMRP will reject full applications from uninvited pre-proposals. When the application period closes, we then proceed with peer review and finally programmatic review. After we receive the appropriation, it usually takes a few months for us to get through all phases of our program cycle, including the review process. Depending on the award mechanism, there can be up to 18 months between submitting your application and the time you receive notification of your funding recommendation. The CDMRP uses a two-tier research application review process. The two-tier review process is a partnership between peer review and programmatic review. Both reviews rely on a dynamic interaction among scientists, clinicians, and consumers from advocacy organizations, patients, family members and caregivers, members of the military, and other research or clinical specialists as applicable. The first level of review is the peer review. During scientific peer review, reviewers measure applications against established criteria to determine the application's technical merit. This is a criterion-based evaluation of the entire application. The outcome of peer review is a summary statement with a numeric score of the application, but this score does not reflect its standing relative to other applications. Applicants will not receive a summary statement of feedback until the conclusion of the entire review process. Because of the nature of our appropriations and the fluidity of our programs and our topic areas, we do not have standing peer review panels. Each year, we recruit peer reviewers with the expertise to review the applications received for that year's funding opportunities. During programmatic review, reviewers evaluate applications with strong scientific merit as determined by the peer reviewers for potential impact, adherence to the intent of the award mechanism, relevance to program goals, and portfolio composition. Applications are directly compared to one another. Remember, innovation and impact are important to our applications. We want to fund research that directly impacts patients and that moves the field forward. Sometimes it's not the applications with the highest scientific score from peer review that get recommended for funding, and this is because the panel members consider multiple criteria at the programmatic review. The goal is to not draw a pay line, but to recommend for funding those applications that offer the highest promise to fulfill the programmatic goals that we set forth in our program announcements. Programmatic panels include consumers, clinicians, researchers, and a wide variety of representatives from government organizations. We also include additional ad hoc reviewers depending on the specific program needs each year. Peer and programmatic reviewers from previous years are listed on each program's website. When the CDMRP began, the National Academy of Medicine recommended a model for application review. This model encouraged community participation, and we are very proud that consumers participate in all stages of the program cycle, from setting program priorities and investment strategies to participating in application review and making funding recommendations. Consumers are the true north and the foundation of the CDMRP, so their voices are equal to the scientists throughout the review process. Consumer reviewers participate in all levels of review, so it's important to understand who consumers are and what their role is. Consumers are people with lived experience of the research topic. These people are often patients or survivors, caregivers and family members, and even patient advocates. Applications should emphasize the impact that the research will have on these consumers. Consumers are our true north, and in the review process, their votes carry equal weight to the scientists on the panels. Let's shift focus to the Peer-Reviewed Medical Research Program, or PRMRP, because this program has 56 topic areas, any one of which may pique your interest. Congress first appropriated funds to the PRMRP in 1999. Our congressional language is very broad and non-prescriptive. Congress directs us to support research of clear scientific merit and with direct relevance to military health, but only in congressionally specified topic areas. The vision of the PRMRP is to improve the health, care, and well-being of all military service members and their families and veterans. To reach that vision, the program's mission is to encourage, identify, select, and manage medical research projects of clear scientific merit that lead to impactful advances in health care of service members and their families and veterans. Every year, the PRMRP receives a list of topic areas to address with that year's appropriation. Many of these topic areas vary from one year to the next. For example, Congress did not identify scleroderma and tuberculosis as topic areas in fiscal year 2022, but did for fiscal year 2023. Topic areas new to the PRMRP for fiscal year 2025 appear in blue font: Angelman syndrome, cardiac health, hereditary and acquired ataxia, Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, menopause, orthotics and prosthetics outcome, Parkinson's, post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2 infection, reconstructive transplant, tick-borne disease, traumatic brain injury and psychological health, tuberous sclerosis complex, and vision. By law, applications must address at least one topic area. Congress does not specify how to allocate funds for each of these topic areas, and the topics compete among themselves. We're looking for research with the highest scientific merit and potential for impactful advances in healthcare. The PRMRP's overall strategy divides the topic areas into 8 portfolios that align with major areas of scientific research: autoimmune disorders and immunology, cardiovascular health, infectious diseases, internal medicine, orthopedic medicine, neuroscience and behavioral health, respiratory health, and rare diseases and conditions. This slide shows how the topic areas are assigned among the portfolios. It is most important here to remember that there are no allocated funds for each of the portfolios. Applications must identify the portfolio and topic area that the research aims to address. The PRMRP sets the research priorities for that year by creating portfolio-specific strategic goals spanning the continuum of care, from prevention and diagnosis through treatment and epidemiology. Key stakeholders, including DoD leaders, government counterparts, and advocacy groups, work with the programmatic panel to create these goals. Applications must address at least one topic area and one strategic goal against which the application will be assessed. As an example, here are the fiscal year 2025 topic areas and strategic goals for the Rare Diseases and Conditions portfolio. You'll find the applicable topic areas and then the strategic goals aligned to the stages of the continuum of care. Applications should describe how the project addresses both the topic area and a strategic goal. Next, we'll describe the funding opportunities offered for fiscal year 2025 and the application submission process. This year, the PRMRP offers 2 award mechanisms. The first is the TTDA, or Technology and Therapeutic Development Award. TTDAs are product-driven and intended to support product development toward a clinical application. The TTDA can support both tangible and knowledge products. Upon completion, tangible products, such as drugs or devices, should be ready to enter clinical trials. This mechanism is commonly used to support the experiments needed for an investigational new drug or an investigation device exemption application to the FDA. Importantly, this award mechanism cannot support basic mechanistic research or a clinical trial. The TTDA mechanism can also support knowledge products, such as clinical practice guidelines or clinical decision-making tools. Whether the product is a tangible item or a knowledge item, the experiments proposed should take the product all the way to clinical trials or evaluation. Preliminary data is required to demonstrate that the product is at the appropriate stage of development for this award mechanism. Next is the CTA, or Clinical Trial Award. As you might guess, the CTA supports the evaluation of a drug, device, or other intervention in a clinical trial. If the intervention requires an IND or IDE, then those applications must have been submitted to the FDA before the application submission deadline, and the IND or IDE application must be approved before the CDMRP can fund the award. The CTA mechanism can also be used to test interventions that are not regulated by the FDA. Preclinical animal research is not supported by this award mechanism. The PRMRP requires only a letter of intent as the pre-application for these award mechanisms. If you recall, a letter of intent is not reviewed or evaluated. It serves only for administrative purposes. In the one-page letter, you'll tell us which portfolio, topic area, and strategic goal the proposed research will address. Your brief research description will allow us to start forming our peer review panels with the appropriate experts. For both award mechanisms, letters of intent are due June 9th, 2025, and full applications are due by July 21st. The CDMRP posts funding opportunity announcements or program announcements to their website, grants.gov, the Electronic Biomedical Research Application Portal, or EBRAP, sam.gov, and to LinkedIn. To quickly find the opportunities on the CDMRP website, first go to the homepage, and then click Funding Opportunities, and then choose Program Funding Opportunities. When applying for funding, please note that all deadlines are listed at the top of the announcement. Within the announcement, a table of contents details information about the award mechanism and application requirements. The award information section has all of the information you need to know about which mechanism is appropriate for you. The announcement also includes the evaluation criteria so that you are clear what is expected of your application. Please note that the CDMRP program staff do not directly work with applicants on their materials. Even if you understand the expectations by the time you get to page 5, please keep reading. Attention to detail and grantsmanship goes a long way. All PRMRP applications must include a few required attachments, including a project narrative, supporting documentation, technical and lay abstract, a statement of work, post-award transition plan, prior outcome statement, representations, and an intragovernmental or intramural budget form. All applications include impact and relevance to military health statements that explain how the proposed research will address the healthcare needs of service members, veterans, military beneficiaries, and the American public. Please note these are two separate attachments for the TTDA, while the CTA combines the impact and relevance to military health statement. In addition to these common attachments, each award mechanism requires specific application components relevant to the type of research they support. For example, the Clinical Trial Award requires the application describe the target study population and the regulatory strategy, among others. The Technology and Therapeutic Development Award needs an attachment addressing the statistical plan and data analysis. Let's take a moment to consider the relevance to military health statement. At the CDMRP, each program, including the PRMRP, aligns with the CDMRP's vision of transforming healthcare for service members, their families, veterans, and the American public. Some ideas can benefit the civilian population and be related to military health. Aspects of the targeted disease and condition that have direct relevance to military health is something that you should investigate and really describe in your application. For example, a family member having a serious disease or condition can impact a service member's readiness. Describing this link between the research idea and improving healthcare for service members and their families and veterans plays a key role in the review of all applications to the CDMRP. The program announcements list specific criteria for use in either peer review or programmatic review. For peer review, these criteria may be scored or unscored and are listed in decreasing order of importance. Each of these criteria, such as impact shown here, includes a bulleted list of desired qualities that peer reviewers will use to evaluate your application. We encourage all applicants to consider this list while preparing their applications to ensure that the application meets all the requirements. After peer review comes programmatic review. This slide shows the criteria that the programmatic review panel will use to evaluate your application. Important criteria include the proposed research's relevance to military health, the relevance to identified topic area, and how well the application meets the portfolio-specific strategic goals. As a reminder, applications with the best scientific scores may not always be recommended for funding. Our programmatic panel also considers which applications will fill gaps within our portfolio or help achieve the program's strategic goals. Our programmatic panel is listed on our website, and we encourage you to look at the individuals who will make the recommendations for funding. This slide summarizes the application submission process, starting by viewing program announcements and then submitting a pre-application before submitting the full application. Both principal investigators and business officials play a role in the application submission process. All organizations will submit pre-applications through eBREP. Extramural or non-DoD organizations will submit full applications through grants.gov, while intramural or DoD organizations will submit again through eBREP. There is no competitive advantage to submitting through eBREP or grants.gov. All applications are pulled together prior to the start of the review process. This year, pre-applications are due by 5 p.m. Eastern Time on June 9th for both the Technology and Therapeutic Development Award and the Clinical Trial Award. Full applications are due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on July 21st. To end this presentation, we'd like to leave you with some resources and strategies for success. The most helpful strategy to share with you is the importance of carefully reading the program announcements. We do not work with investigators to tailor their applications, so we put every piece of information that you will need into the announcement itself. The CDMRP program officers will not be able to give applicants individual attention through the submission process. When preparing an application, please ensure that you understand the goals of the program, the topic areas and strategic goals, the intent of the award mechanism, and the review criteria. Funding opportunity announcements contain all the information that you will need to complete your application. Make sure that you review the strategic goals and topic areas, as well as the required elements, including the deadlines. Deadlines are extremely important. Outside of catastrophic events like a hurricane or something truly out of the ordinary, the DoD does not provide a grace period for pre-application or application submissions. Deadlines are deadlines. If you submit even a minute late, the application is automatically withdrawn. There is nothing that the program office can do, so we encourage you to allow enough time for submission. Many applications come from academic institutions and are submitted through a business office, so please keep details in mind when planning to submit your application. As promised, we'd like to share some strategies for success. When preparing an application, please keep in mind the relevance, impact, innovation, and feasibility of the proposed research. Proposed research should align with the specific guidelines in the program announcement. The announcements should clearly articulate translatability. How will this work make a difference? If you propose something truly innovative, make sure that you provide a clear rationale for testing new, potentially high-risk ideas or novel approaches. And last, make sure that you clearly outline approaches for a contingency plan. Please ensure that you include evidence of appropriate expertise related to the proposed project, that you have enough statistical power for validating and generating meaningful results, and that you have the availability and access to critical resources needed to complete the proposed work. Planning and timelines are very important. Please make sure that you give yourself, your collaborators, and even your business office enough time to complete the work and submit the pre-application and full application on time. Remember, we do not provide grace periods. One strategy to ensure that your application meets all of the requirements is to have a colleague you trust read your application, maybe even more than once. Please keep in mind who will be reading your application. The review panels include non-scientist consumers, so we encourage you to write clearly and without scientific jargon, particularly in the lay abstract attachment. Our program page has a lot of information, including our strategic plan, a program booklet, and other program-specific resources. On the main CDMRP website, you'll find annual reports, a webinar series, videos, and other great resources. We've also prepared 2 specific videos describing the journey of an application. We encourage you to look at the website before and while you're working on your application. You can always sign up to our listserv on the website or through eBrep to receive communications from specific programs or for all the programs. Subscribing to the listserv will notify you of open funding opportunities and help you stay up to date on CDMRP news. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We hope this helps you better understand and prepare for the application process.
All right, thank you so much for your attention during the video. I just want to recap kind of our most important tip that we always give to applicants is to read the program announcement thoroughly. I know they're very long program announcements, but that's really our entire method of communicating information to applicants is by putting as much as we can in the program announcement. I also do want to point out for those of you that applied to us last year, please keep in mind that the template for the program announcement has changed slightly. So some of the information that you are looking for might be in a different place within the announcement from where it was last year. It's really critical to pay attention to the mechanism intent information, that you make sure that you're fitting your research best to what the intent of the award mechanism is, because they're very distinct between the Technology Therapeutic Development Award and the Clinical Trial Award mechanism. And one of the great ways to get a good heads up on the intent is to take a look at the peer review criteria. They are distinct between the two mechanisms, and they can really help you shape your application. With the clinical trial in particular, it's important to keep in mind that budget is scored peer review criteria. So the peer reviewers and the programmatic panel will be looking to make sure that the proposed budget does fit the research that is being proposed and that people are not just automatically going to that maximum if that's really not what is needed to conduct the work. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that any of you might have.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you for that comprehensive overview. to those who joined us, I apologize for the technical difficulties. The entire presentation is recorded and we'll be sharing that out, but we would love to use this time since we have the PRMRP team with us for y'all to ask questions that you have about this process. So you can either share your questions in the chat or you can come off mute, whatever you would prefer. I know we've got one in the chat. Catherine, are you able to read that, or I'm happy to read it out loud?
I can see the chat. I'll read it out loud too, so it's there for the recording. So the question is whether international applicants are encouraged to apply for PRMRP funding and what steps they might take to be able to increase their chances of being competitive. So one, international applicants are welcome to apply for PRMRP funding. They can serve as the prime awardee, and they also can serve as collaborators or sub-awardees on our agreements. So this is a great opportunity for those of you outside the United States to apply for this funding, and also for those of you within the United States, if you have collaborators that are international, feel free to include them on your application. There's really no additional steps that international applicants need to take to be competitive. This is about impact for von Hippel-Lindau syndrome. So, and for all of the PRMRP topic areas, it's trying to get the best for the patients wherever that research is being conducted, whether it be in the United States or outside the United States, whether it's at a university, a hospital, or a for-profit company doing the research, all kind of have equal competitiveness by nature of the organization, and it's about the research proposed and the impact that that research is going to have. The next question I'm seeing in the chat is whether the letter of intent is required to be submitted by the institute or if a researcher can submit it by themselves. So the researcher, I believe, can submit the letter of intent. You must be affiliated with an organization that is registered and able to submit through grants.gov. But the researcher should be able to submit the letter of intent. When you get to the full application steps to be conducted through grants.gov, that is going to have to go through your business official. And then the next question I'm seeing in the chat is what level of preliminary data is considered sufficient for a competitive application in an understudied disease like von Hippel-Lindau? So keep in mind that the preliminary data is going to be assessed by the peer review panels. Those are going to be individuals with expertise in von Hippel-Lindau. And so it is reasonable to have your preliminary data be appropriate to the topic that you are studying and what is available in the field. Going a little bit further, though, I do want you to keep in mind that there are some very specific preliminary data requirements for the two separate mechanisms. So for the Technology Therapeutic Development Award, it is a product-driven award mechanism, and you have to have some type of preliminary product in hand to be eligible for that funding. And so you must demonstrate that in your preliminary data. It needs to be a prototype or a lead compound or some type of starting material for a knowledge product. It can be something that is being repurposed that was first generated for another disease, or if it is something that is being newly discovered specific to von Hippel-Lindau, you do need to have that starting product in hand. Then for clinical trials, it's really just the same thing for any clinical trial. You need to have the preliminary data to show that you do have the safety and permission from the FDA to be testing whatever you want to test in human subjects. If it's not something that requires FDA approval, then just rely over preliminary data that you have to justify the ethical nature of this study and the safety, guarantee the safety to participants with the preliminary data or showing evidence from other studies. That type of thing is acceptable. If you're not in the United States, whatever kind of equivalent agency that you have to the FDA is fine then too, if it's going to be conducted outside the US. All right. And then we have one. Oh, go ahead. Was someone else speaking?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. And then the other question I'm seeing is, are there unique considerations reviewers take into account when evaluating proposals focused on newly added or rare topics like von Hippel-Lindau? So For peer review, our peer review panels are not standing peer review panels. They're newly generated peer review panels, and the expertise is recruited based on the applications that we receive. So it should be individuals with expertise in von Hippel and Dow, and also specifically in the study you're proposing. For example, just to give kind of a generic example, not necessarily one for von Hippel and Dow, but if you were posing some type of like imaging diagnostic, or prognostic indicator, it would be somebody with imaging expertise, at least, that would be represented on the panel. So the peer review panels are very specifically recruited. And that's why your letter of intent is important and why we require those to have a little bit of a heads up on what type of research is being proposed and make sure we can get the best expertise recruited for the peer review panels. For programmatic review, we have different subgroups for programmatic review at the portfolio level. So as you heard in the video, all of our topic areas are organized into the portfolios. Von Hippel and Dow is within the rare diseases and conditions portfolio. And so those rare diseases and conditions topic areas will be evaluated as a group because we are aware that there are kind of specific considerations that need to be taken into account for rare diseases, such as the small population that's available if you're going to be doing clinical studies, that type of thing. And so we want to make sure that you're not being compared directly against a topic area that has much different considerations that need to be taken into account. All right, and then we have a question on whether can the Technology Therapeutic Development Award be used to support the development or expansion of a patient registry if the registry is essential for generating data to inform the use or development of a specific therapeutic agent or diagnostic test. So I do apologize. We do not give specific guidance on whether or not a specific project is eligible for our funding. It is entirely up to the applicant to read what is in the program announcement and make their case on whether or not this is responsive to the ask in the program announcement and to make the case. And then it is decided by the peer reviewers and really importantly, the programmatic panel to make sure that the research proposed is sticking within the intent of the mechanism, because it can vary a little bit, with topic areas. This is one of the things that's, considerations that needs to be taken into account is the stage of the field of research and how it's going to impact the patients. So we leave that up to our panels to decide, and the program office does not make that decision.
Thank you, Catherine. Do we have any additional questions while we have the team here today? The opportunity to come off mute we've got one more in the chat, Catherine.
All right. So the last question, well, maybe not last, we'll see, but the last one I'm seeing right now is what advice I have for researchers working on rare diseases like von Hippel and Dow to demonstrate relevance to military and public health in their proposals. So the topic areas have already kind of been defined as militarily relevant as being included under the Department of Defense for this funding opportunity. What we ask within the given the applications is that you speak to your specific application and how it is going to advance military health. Keep in mind, military health is broadly defined. It's not only service members and veterans, but it's also their family members, the beneficiaries, and also the American public, because this speaks to the readiness of our military, being able to care for a family member with a disease or illness, and also thinking about the American public with diseases or conditions that are disqualifying for military service. All of that speaks to military readiness and the fighting strength of the country. If you're kind of at a loss, we ask for you to do some investigation. You can oftentimes find some data of whether there's service members or veterans and get some statistics, some numbers for those that are affected by the disease. And hopefully, Marissa, you don't mind me putting the VHL Alliance on the spot, but we do encourage you to reach out to the foundations. The advocacy groups often have really good information to help you out.
Thank you, Catherine. I was going to say, we have a great document that we'll share in our follow-up with all of our researchers that really speaks to that military relevance piece. And as Catherine said, we're happy to support on that piece, but we do have some really great language on the relevance. So we'll share that in the follow-up.
All right. Thanks, Martha. That's usually the best place for folks to go.
Perfect. Do we have any additional questions before our time is up? All right, I'm sending this in the chat, but really appreciate everyone joining us today. And thank you to the PRMRP team for your time. I know that you've got a lot going on right now, but we really appreciate you presenting to our researchers, and we're really thrilled about this funding opportunity. Researchers, if you have any questions, please reach out to me directly. I'm happy to facilitate our questions over to the PRMRP team just to make sure we're getting everything answered efficiently with the quick turnaround. Oh, we've got one more question that came in. Catherine, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So the question is, since von Hippel-Lindau syndrome renal tumor has overlap with CCRCC, is cross, can you define what CCRCC is?
Clear cell renal cell carcinoma.
Okay,
Yes,
got it.
clear cell.
Got it. Just wanted to make sure. I was thinking if it was another program. So, you nothing is really disallowed kind of thing. So keep in mind, this is kind of the similar question to us not making the decision on what types of research is applicable and responsive to the different mechanisms. Is assessing the fit to the topic area is something that is also left up to the peer and programmatic review panels. You want to make sure that whatever research that you're proposing has immediate and direct relevance to von Hippel-Lindau syndrome, and it's up to the peer and programmatic review panels to assess that. So if they think it's kind of more of tangentially relevant to the topic area, it might not be as competitive for funding as opposed to something that is more directly relevant, but it's entirely up to the applicant to make that case on how this will impact those with von Hippel-Lindau syndrome, and then that will be assessed by the peer and programmatic review panels. But nothing, the type of study that you're kind of mentioning there with the overlap to renal cell carcinoma is not something that is necessarily disqualifying, as long as you can make that impact for von Hippel-Lindau apparent to the reviewers.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, if we don't have any additional questions, we will end our webinar for this afternoon. As I said, if you have any questions, please send them directly to me. My email is in the chat, but we will be sending out a complete follow-up email with the recording, with our military relevance language, and links to all of the application opportunities. So thank you again for your time, and we look forward to our applications.
All right, thanks, Marissa. I'm looking
Thank
forward to seeing
you.
what comes in this year. All right.
Have a
Bye.
great week, everyone.